Okay, here we are live with part two of our Science of Selective Mating series or installation of podcasts. We're back by popular demand, actually, because the first one received a lot of feedback. It was all positive, and people had lots of questions. So we decided to present a second one in this series, and we'll address some of those questions. And even if you check the links in the if you check inside the description, you'll see links to programs and courses that actually satisfy and answers many of the questions that you put forth to myself and the other presenters. So without further delay, I am going to introduce myself. I'm Sultan Anurallah, and we have three guest speakers with us. We have Brother Wild Wolf, Director Z, aka Wild Wolf. We have Sister Layla from East Africa, and we have Bashira here from the United States. Um, each of us are pretty much going to present what we have to present. We're having a discussion amongst each other. And for those in the viewing and the listening audience, those watching this live, feel free to ask any questions, any comments, any suggestions. This is free participation. And also share it on your social media. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your Twitter. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, etc. We also have, for those that want to support and contribute towards bringing to the public more supreme and superior and powerful information. We have our Cash App information going across the bottom of the screen. Again, the subject is the science of selective mating, virginity, the standard of superior marriage. All right, now, just to begin. So as you all know, I've been making several posts and sharing several posts on Facebook speaking specifically about virginity and virgin marriage and virginity being a standard. And once upon a time, even here in the West, that was the standard, that was the case. But now that we're in the age of WAP, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, and it didn't start with them because even a generation ago, we can name some artists and some celebrities, but we're in the age where horror culture has become dominant. Okay, let me get away from this noise in my background. Where horror culture has become the dominant culture. Actually, the original standard, which is virgin marriage, has become strange and foreign again. So we're just basically going to show that it wasn't strange and foreign. We're going to show and prove that this current trend that we see here in the West right now, that is a strange and the foreign thing. That's the strange and the foreign culture. We're also going to show the detriments and the downsides of this dysfunctional way of life. So that being said, all right, I'm going to Director Z, if you could introduce yourself just real quick, and then we're going to let the sister Layla and Bashira introduce themselves. Then we're going to go on with the podcast.
Greetings, Brother Noah. Thank you for the opportunity to yet again appear on the podcast. Very important subject. Also want to greet my fellow guests and thank you for your contributions. My name or my how people refer to me, Director Z. I'm the director of a marriage society and also a marriage and family academy for quite a few years. So this subject concerning virginity and virgin marriage is something that I normally deal with in the course of my duties. So again, thanks for the opportunity to appear and contribute to this show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, Sister Layla, you had commented or offered a comment on the previous video that we did on part one of this installment. And when I saw the comment, I said, you know something, I would love to learn more or hear more of what she would have to say, because it was quite intelligent, and it made me curious. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure, quite certain, if I had thought that way, others may have thought the same. And rather than just have a long dialogue on the comment section, you know, we could just discuss it verbally. But yeah, if you like, you can just introduce yourselves. Let us know what drew you to the subject and so on.
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Leah. I'm based in East Africa in Tanzania. And originally, of course, my mother's side is from Eritrea, and father's side is from the southern part of Africa known as Eswatini, also known as Swaziland. And actually, I met Mr. Sultan Allah through the comments on Facebook. And, that's where his interest in the subject peaked, or in terms of what I had to say about it. So thank you for having me on the show. And hopefully my contribution and comments with this subject will, basically be interesting, or, a lot of people can learn from it.
Yes, I'm sure a lot will. No, I will as well. You know, we thank you for joining us. You're welcome. And Bashira, your phone is on. I'm sorry, your mic was on mute. I don't know. It's off now, but if you wouldn't mind just just stating who you are and what draws you to the subject and what interests you have before we go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had my mic on mute because I didn't want to have any background noises from me.
No problem.
But yes, my name is Bashira here on the internet. But I have a lot to as well say about the subject because it's something that I can relate to, and I'm happy to contribute and converse about the subject because it's important.
Yeah.
And I'm from the United States. I'm from the West Coast, so.
Okay. So all right. So now we're going to respect everyone's time too. We're going to keep this under 2 hours. The last one went 3 hours, so we all got things to do, including myself. But anyway, let's see now. Wow Wolf, there was something that you stated yesterday while we were speaking, and I was out and about, and you had made reference to a post that I shared about a fly and a bee. And in the post, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it directly before me, but it stated that if the bee could talk to the fly, the bee was trying to convince the fly to be attracted to pollen rather than SHIT. You know, I'm not going to say it outright, as a general audience. And the fly wouldn't listen. The fly, no matter what the bee would say to him, would still be attracted to SHIT over the pollen, or the pollen. And I had stated inside the elaboration that the reason for this is that the fly is genetically programmed to be attracted to the manure more so than the pollen. It's genetically attracted. And now we can take this analogy and we can apply it even to humans as well, because all of us have our genetic programming. Our genetic programming determines what we are attracted to, whom we are attracted to, what we are repelled by, whom we are repelled by, what information resonates with us, what information doesn't resonate with us, so on and so forth. I've been getting feedback from a lot of brothers, the brothers that would disagree, that is, because there are many that agree, and they would say things like, bro, ain't no virgins out here. How you going to find? They're not out here. Where you find virgins at? And you said something interesting. You said, they're actually telling on themselves because by them saying that, they're telling you what they are. They're that pile of manure in many regards. If they cannot attract bees to themselves, and if all they attract to themselves is flies, it's saying a lot. You want to elaborate on that real quick, if you don't mind? Director Z, I think your phone is on. Not your phone. The mic is on mute. Okay, it's off now.
Yes, definitely. That was a very good point, and that brings the subject of virgin marriage or virginity. We want to look at it on the highest level possible. One of the highest levels to look at it is genetic. So, with that said, as you gave the analogy, the metaphor of a fly, the fly is already predisposed to what it's attracted to what it's going to either feed on or even plant its seed, its eggs in to reproduce. We know what it does that with fecal matter. One of the things, anyway, fecal matter. So, we want to look at that and consider and realize that there's a genetic component to virginity and also virgin marriage that that has something to do why certain populations of people or certain individuals of people or certain families, they likely are predisposed to promiscuity, promiscuous mating, random mating, getting, attracted to people that sleep around for 20 years, and after the 20th year is over, now they want to settle down. So that's important. And the idea that some people have, at least in their own mind, that it's hard to find a virgin or it's difficult. I was suggesting that in our conversation that is very likely that that's a predisposed genetic condition, meaning they may have grown up in households that was the norm. That may be part of their gene pool, their father, their mother, their grandparents. That have been and may still be the mating practices in their household and in their family, to the point where you and I, we think we're having an actual conversation. You're not even having an actual conversation. People that have that perspective, as you stated, it's impossible to find a virgin, or virgin marriage is hard, difficult. They may simply be expressing what has already been programmed in their genetics.
Wow, that was profound. Okay, we're going to turn it back. I have for Sister Layla. Again, brother, wow, that was profound. Now, man, I had so much, like, you opened up a can of, let me not say that. You basically light a whole bunch of fireworks with that questions from me. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm not going to take up too much time. We'll eventually get to those. Layla, if you don't mind, could you share with myself and the other guests on the podcast, as well as those in the listening audience, who are generally actually more specifically here located in the United States, but my audience is actually worldwide, some of the aspects of the cultures in the region of the planet that you are from in regards to marriage, virgin marriage, the processes, just whatever you feel like sharing.
Sure, yes, absolutely. Just in terms of marriage in general, I would say first as a whole in Africa in general, virginity is definitely valued. It's just part of the culture, as we say, Eastern culture, that would cut across to Arab, Asia, since it does derive from Africa. But then coming closer to my region in the east and the southern side, so if I would start with the country Swaziland, Eswatini, basically we have entire ceremonies based on virginity where there is a redance, and in the redance it's not only about the king choosing a wife, but it's about the celebration of femininity and virginity, where only virgins are allowed to attend. So that in itself is just the celebration of virginity and the importance of it in society, where even the king himself, he basically gives the young girls, and even into their 20s, even to early 30s, he gives them a stipend every month to make sure that they are keeping their virginity whoredom, whether it's through, having what we call sugar daddies, or, selling themselves for the latest handbag, or, the latest whatever is in fashion.
Mm. Mm. And
Then, of
another,
course, we go into
oh,
the Eastern culture. It's depending, of course, now with go ahead. You had a
Oh
question.
no, go ahead. I thought that it froze, it got quiet, but go ahead. You're back.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, we hear you now. It
Oh,
froze
okay.
temporarily, but we hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you clearly.
Okay. So yes. So like I said, culturally, you'll find that even with bride price, virginity is very much emphasized. So you would get higher bride price as well if the man knows that he's marrying a virgin, and this is an expectation. Of course, now with Western culture, a lot of things have changed, but it still remains the same in terms of the core values. So even with modernization, it does not change the culture and the expectation. That's why you will find that a lot of females who do not live up to that expectation basically feel left out, and they are outcasts because there is a wide range of females to choose from who are very traditional, who are virgins, and who can prove that, by going to the midwives or the nurses and so forth. And while Western culture will find that invasive, we find that as a form of pride, and we find that as something that is based in your femininity as much as it is with doing domestic duties, traditional roles, and being a nurturing feminine woman. So, hello?
Yes.
Yes. So basically, I'm not sure what else you'd like me to dive into, maybe if the marriage or so forth. I don't know if that's for later in the show, but that's just
Well,
basically the general background of,
okay. Well, you actually, just for myself, you actually
yeah.
answered the question that I was going to ask. You must have read my mind. I was going to ask you, in what ways is it like promiscuity shunned or frowned upon, in the cultures over in the region where you are, either the cultures in general or your culture in particular. And you pretty much
Yes.
answered that. Hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you answered that. Okay, yes.
Yes, of
Bashira.
course. It's frowned upon in a number of ways. Generally in society, yes. Okay.
Oh, continue. Continue. Sorry about that. Are you there?
Oh, not a problem. You can go on.
Oh, I think it might be getting the sound might be coming a little bit later through. But Sarah asked, she said, can she repeat
Hello?
what she said
I'm here.
about sugar? Yeah. Testing. Can
Oh,
anyone hear me?
I was saying that can you hear?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I was saying that with regards to the stipend the king gives the woman to basically remain chaste so that they do not fall into the culture of sugar daddies and so forth,
Mm, okay.
or promiscuity. Yes, something as a form of culture, basically. So since you were asking in what ways it's frowned upon, besides in general society, that's one of the ways it's frowned upon is by, well, basically encouraged actually, is by,
Yeah.
making sure that the females to remain chaste are given that stipend every month to remain
Mm.
that way.
Oh, interesting. That's very interesting. By the way, that's quite interesting. That's something that I had in my head. Like, I wonder if, but the mere fact that it's actually practiced, because I actually believe that in a society such as this, women being virtuous and chaste, that has to be incentivized. That has to be incentivized just as much as the opposite is frowned
Yes.
upon. It should be incentivized.
Yes.
So
Of course, it's still a personal choice, it's just in terms of it's not in terms of buying you or anything. It's just in
Right.
terms of encouraging so that it's passed down, even to your daughters and so forth, because it's a good practice in society,
Right.
and so that
Right.
the males themselves can choose from the best. Yes.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I appreciate that elaboration that you offered, because you had answered some questions that I had. We're going to bring it back to you in just a moment, unless there's anything else that you wanted to say. I hope I didn't cut you off.
No, not at all.
Okay. Okay, Basira. So my question to you is, what if you can just generalize your experience here in America as a virgin? So now we're bringing it to the other side of the planet now, where the culture is almost diametrically opposite. Your experience with men, your experience with women, or just the public in general, the things that you like, the challenges, because I'm certain that there are many other women in your predicament, but here in the West, virginity, especially amongst women, is frowned upon. This is horror culture. So the woman who is a virgin, or the woman who is chaste, she's pretty much outcast by the circle of hoes, or the dudes. If she lets a man know, and I've had women share this with me, that they would tell a man that she's a virgin, he back all the way. And now that I know better, I understand why. But if you don't mind, if you could just summarize some of what your experiences are, so that way others can know that they're not going through it alone, and we do have solutions, remedies.
Well, hello everyone. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yes, we hear you clearly.
Yes.
Okay. So my experience is the total opposite of Sister Layla's. It is frowned upon. You are looked at as less valuable, because you quote unquote can't do anything and don't have any quote unquote experience. You're boring because you aren't doing those things, engaging in sexual acts. And women also look down on women, um, such as myself, for being a virgin. Even older women, who you would assume has more wisdom and knowledge, will say, and even claim that they go to church and believe in Jesus and all of that stuff, will say, what are you waiting for? I've been told, girl, you need to get rid of that thing. I've been questioned on if I was gay or not.
Wow.
And, which is funny, because if I was gay, I would be engaging with sex with a woman. So, no, but, that's the kind of feedback that I get from it, as well as, it's not a good thing. I mean, at all out here. I mean, I'm fine with it. I feel the positives from it is that I don't have the emotional baggage that a lot of my peers have from dealing with men, and oh, I'm talking to this one, now that one, now this one, and I'm crying every couple of months because I gave myself to this one and this one. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, so I look at it as a wonderful thing, just emotionally speaking and spiritually speaking, that I don't have that I feel like I'm clean, and not in the sense of like just because I'm a virgin, but clean mentally and emotionally, and my heart is clean, because whoever I do marry, I'm not going to come into that relationship emotionally looking at him like, oh, all men are dogs, or you're going to hurt me, or you're just like the last one. And, from an emotional standpoint. And I feel like, because a woman's heart is, very valuable. I mean, yes, her virginity too as well, but her heart is very valuable. And I feel like I'm not just going to give that to anyone. And when I see my peers go through that, I'm just thankful that I haven't had to go through that, and I don't want to. So it's easy for me to remain a virgin because I'm not going to be crying every 5 minutes. Like, I'll go to jail. So it's pretty easy for me.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh,
Anybody wanted to offer feedback on that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes, I think that was a very interesting point that I think Sister Bashira just made. It is true that whenever, at least from what I've seen, my experiences, when people often may share or mention or it becomes known that they're virgins, especially in so-called quote unquote modern cultures, modern society, industrial society, there is this need of a lot of other people that are promiscuous
Mm.
to question people's honesty of, oh, you couldn't be a virgin. And
Right.
the thing that baffles me about that is
Yeah.
when they're running around promiscuous, nobody questions, are you a whore or are you a whore?
Mm.
So,
Mm.
so
Yes.
you're promiscuous and nobody questions that. So this person is saying they're a virgin, so you automatically have to question that. So I'm just mentioning that what the sister said, that's a very important thing to think about. That's part of the psychological operations that is being inflicted on virgins and virgin marriage and virginity culture every day that we don't think about. It's constantly these nuanced ways of trying to undermine people that declare their support for virginity until marriage, saying that they're virgins. It's this constant attempt, nuanced attempt to undermine the veracity of their claims and their stances.
Right. Or you are a homosexual, you
Right.
know? And I can't imagine a man, he really they you would really be a homosexual if you were a man and a virgin, God forbid. But women, you know, after, hell, even after 21, if you're still a virgin, you have to be a closet homosexual. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm too old to be in the closet. If I was gay, I would be gay. I'm not going to be in the closet, you know? So, but no, clearly it's like you have to be gay. You just don't know it yet. You don't know you're gay, but I'm telling you, it's almost like I'm telling you for you that you're gay because it's not natural for you to still be a virgin at this point. Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely. And that point you mentioned, that's a great point about the question your sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the insanity. So as you mentioned, that's part of the psychological games being played to influence, to try to
Yes.
promote people to go have sex, to be promiscuous. And we need to question why. Look, there is this underlying theme that the more sex you have, the more adult you are, the more mature
Yes.
you are. And we know that is an absolute lie because we see a lot of people, many in fact, that have sex and produce legitimate children, they are
Right.
not responsible for those children. So if sex alone, if promiscuity alone was enough to produce a mature, responsible adult, so we could see that's part of the other psychological ploy to pressure people to engage in promiscuity and give up their virginity for nothing, is this underlying idea that sex makes you a mature, responsible adult. It does not. And that idea is pushed on to men, especially men, that if you're
Mm-hmm.
not having sex, you are not a man. You couldn't be a mature man. Something's wrong with you. Well,
Right. You're gay. You're
right.
gay.
You need to get, you need to put in that work. And nothing could
Mm.
be further from the truth. Sex promiscuity does not make a person a mature adult. As to jump back to what the sister Lila said, in traditional culture, and I like to call it technology. Traditional technology, you have to become an adult first before you're allowed to get married and have sex. That's the process. So it's the absolute reverse in traditional culture, traditional technology. You become an adult first through some sort of rites of passage process,
That's right.
and then you're
Yeah.
allowed to become married and earn the privilege of having sex in marriage. So it's a complete reverse we're talking about here.
I would
Yeah.
just like to quickly add this. Another way that it's um
Yes.
another way that it's manipulated, not just by calling someone a homosexual, but by saying it's natural. by saying sex is natural. What are you waiting for? It's a part of life. Or to say, you know, everyone wants love, equating sex with love. And we know that's the farthest from the truth. But, you know, everyone wants love. You're stopping yourself from being loved, and you're not being natural by not engaging in this act. That's not natural to not have sex.
Well, I want to say something about that. I will say that sex naturally and in a rightful place is equated with love, right? However, if it's outside of structure and order, right, then it can produce chaos. It's just like water. Water serves its purpose, fire serves its purpose. In fact, water and fire are two of the most productive elements, right? But if it's not under structure, if it's not under order, we all see what the destruction of what type of destruction that water can cause, whether it's a tsunami, hurricanes, what have you. And we've all seen the type of destruction that fire can cause if it's not under structure, control, or organized. And it's the same thing with sex and love. It's a fiery and watery desire. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's all about it being controlled and organized. But here, when in the wilderness of North America, in our teachings, we refer to it as the wilderness, where it's pretty much anything goes. It for people to quote unquote protect their feelings or protect their heart, what they do is they disassociate the sex act from the emotional bonding that comes with it. For example, a woman's body produces oxytocin during the sex act. This oxytocin tells her to bond or gives her signals to bond, right? It's the bonding hormone. If she ignores those signals because she is in a situation where she feels that she's not either not supposed to be having sex, or this man isn't going to be, she's not supposed to bond with this man for whatever reason. Maybe she's a side chick, so to speak, or maybe it's a one night stand, or for whatever reason she knows that she isn't supposed to bond. She'll ignore those signals to bond that the oxytocin release is sent to her brain. And when if she continues to ignore those signals, eventually they're going to shut off and not ever be able to turn. They're not going to turn on again. And this is why, as a saying the streets go, you can't make a hoe into a housewife. Why? Because her ability to mate bond has been impaired from turning off or ignoring the signals to bond every time her body produced oxytocin with the sex act. Either she knew that this man wasn't going to stay, or she knew that she wasn't going to stay. And just I ain't going to get into. I can sometimes go like off and get into stories, but I ain't gonna, get into nobody's, even I won't even mention names, but there's just been stories of like men that I've known that have been like set up by women that they've actually just previously engaged sexually with, and she might have set them up to get harmed or killed, and we would ask ourselves, how is that even possible? It's definitely possible if she's turned off repeatedly her signals to mate bond. There's a brother by the name of Maccabi, and he gave this analogy. It's a good brother of mine, and he made the analogy. He said the woman is like a piece of tape, a fresh piece of tape. When you first take it off the band and you stick it to a surface, it attaches the strongest, right? But then when you detach it from that surface, it picks up lint, debris from the surface, and then you attach it to another surface. It'll probably still stick, but not as much as it did to the first surface. And then if you take it from that surface and snatch it from there, right, it picks up more dirt and debris from that second surface, and then you try to attach it to a third surface, and it might attach just a little bit, but not as much as the second or the first attempt or the first surfaces. Then you detach it from there, it picks up more dirt and debris, and so on and so forth, to the point where you put that piece of tape on a surface, it just slides right off. There's no attachment, no bonding capabilities whatsoever. And what happens is, in America, men are attempting to make these type of women into wives, and they're wondering why they're catching hell. There's a science to this. I'm sure Wild Wolf has some. There's a lot of science to this, which of course we won't be able to cover it all in this podcast, but I definitely wanted to elaborate on that and state that yes, love is associated with sex in its rightful and its natural content. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as they say, sex with no quote unquote attachment. That's that piece of tape, you know?
Right. If I may say something real quick.
Yes, sir.
When we're talking about virginity, what virginity is and what virgin marriage is and its role, we have to question everything that is propagandized to most people. The idea of what sex is need to be completely redefined.
Yes, sir.
Sex is not just any two random people running together at 100 miles an hour and smashing into each other. That's the insanity that is promoted today. That's sex. We need to look at sex from an evolutionary standpoint. What is sex for, or what is sex from an evolutionary standpoint? So if we're looking at it from that standpoint, we would then be forced, I would argue, to redefine sex as it's a conjugal relations technology which is intended to be used for progressively superior genetic procreation.
Yes.
Why am I saying that? Sex is not just for people to just, people or animals, anything to just sleep together. There's a reason and a purpose. The purpose would have to be, if we look from evolution, it would have to be to create progressively more healthier, more intelligent progeny or children. If it's not doing that, I'm arguing on a genetic standpoint, on a biological standpoint, on an evolutionary standpoint, it cannot be categorized as sex. Sex is not a recreational activity. If it's not producing something good, positive, excellent, progressive, then it cannot be fulfilling the very purpose of what it's for. It's not sex. It's a recreational, reckless activity that cannot be categorized as sex.
Right.
And I want to also mention this point, love. We need to redefine what love is.
That's right.
Because this insane idea that's brainwashed into people that you need to have sex to find love, you got to have sex to make the person love you. That's insane. So again, as we have just presented, I've just presented a redefinition of sex that fits the evolutionary, the historical, and the precognitive role. Love has to be refined. I present that a redefinition of love is not emotions. We already know those are chemicals that make that interact and make people feel euphoric, but that cannot be defined as love. In traditional culture, and I'm going to call it yet again, traditional technology. Traditional technology, the purpose of love, or what love is defined as, is not emotions. Love would be defined along the lines of fulfillment of one's duties to your family and your society. That is what love would be defined as under traditional culture, traditional technology. And one term that has become used for that is filial piety. In many other societies, traditional societies, they have different terms. But I'm using a term that it may be more recognizable. Filial piety. What does that mean? You show you love by what you do in terms of your responsibilities to your family and your society. The idea that people can show love, or love is shown through jumping in the bed, running at each other 100 miles an hour, is preposterous, because again, people do that every day, and the divorce rate in many countries is through the roof. The orphanages are through the roof. Parents killing and abusing their own children is through the roof. The abortion clinics, how many abortion clinics keep expanding? So again, love could not be relegated or devolved down to simply I feel. No, love we have to redefine love and redefine sex.
Yeah, actually both of them. You know, we're in this. Can y'all hear me clearly, or do y'all hear echo or anything like that?
We can hear you.
Fine.
Well, I can.
You're fine.
You're fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually looking at it from two devices. We are. The Mayans referred to this cycle that we are now living in, They have so many different names, but basically starting from the years 2012 to 2032. Right. So we're going to speak on things from a cosmic perspective. I just wanted to bring this. In other words, we're in the age where you reap what you sow faster, probably than any other time in history. That being said, if we pay attention to the trending topic right now, which is what's the trending topic? That WAP song, Cardi B, and what's the other one? Megan the Donkey. When we look at what's trending and we see that culture, everybody's talking and arguing about that, right? So just contributing towards and pushing dysgenic horror culture, there are consequences for that. Like, for example, before the song was even released, Megan, they call her the Stallion, she was shot in the foot, both her feet, by her man, supposedly. And Cardi B, now she's divorcing her husband because her WAP couldn't keep what's his name, Offset, couldn't keep him in the house. So now you have two women producing horror culture. Even though one bragged that she didn't have to clean or cook and she still got a ring, now both of them are manless. Both of them without a husband. We're going to see things like this happen in increasing rates, where those that are pushing dysgenia, because we're now in the age now that everything in the universe is corrected. It's on a path. It's on an evolutionary path to correcting itself. It's on an evolutionary path back to its function and order. And anything going against that is going to suffer the consequences. Now, I know there are people that have different views and perceptions on that, different faiths. I understand that, but you don't have to label it anything. Just pay close attention to what we see going around. We're reaping what we're sowing faster now than at any other time in history. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes, I agree with that, because actually, according to the Ethiopian calendar, it's 2012. So, well, it was 2012 and it was recently now 2013, in this month.
Right.
So that's why we saw so much change and all these apocalyptic events take place and everything, because the new era is, here. So those who are on the proper dimension, with the proper open pineal gland will benefit from this era. And those who are on the WAP culture, as you say, will perish. So just even to touch base with what you were saying spiritually, is the fact that in African cultures, or the culture, let me say my culture specifically, with marriage, it's also linked spiritually. So people, before they get married, they both get readings, spiritual readings, to basically see how they can bond together, if they're good for each other, and so that they ensure that generation after generation, the children they produce are strong, are successful, and will be leaders of some sort in society. And this can be done in many ways. Today we know with astrology, and with the Dogon tribe in Mali, they actually do your reading, in the sand with the astrology. And what they see is that according to your personality and who you are as a person and what you came to do on this earth, and then what we refer to as your other half, as the Western society say, but how are they there to benefit you? Because in marriage you are there to uplift each other, basically. That's why we have the saying of oh wow, this husband or this wife, they really are bringing luck to the family, or they bringing good things to the family. And that's why even when you have get twins, the family celebrates, because that's seen as good luck, for example. So we have that spiritual aspect, not just emotionally, but there's practicality in it, where the family it's the entire family's responsibility for your happiness, and of course for you to carry on the lineage, so that you're not producing children that are not mentally ill, but just challenged in some way because of your doing. you know, not even because of anything else. So, and I just wanted to say, Sister Basira, that, you know, well done for staying so strong and staying the way you are in such a society. It's really commendable, and I commend you for that. And the only reason people
Thank you.
basically, you know, question you, no problem, is because they themselves wish they were that way. I don't know if you notice with women when they say, you know, why don't you lose your virginity? What's wrong with you? They're actually saying to themselves, what's wrong with me? Why
Mm,
couldn't I keep myself for so long, you know? And that's what we
right.
learn in our society. And that's why even there was a woman, and she reached, you know, she was 30 or 31 years old, and she was celebrated so much because they said, wow, you waited so long. And the more you wait, meaning, you know, whatever your time is to get married, the longer you wait, the more you celebrate it, because it's an achievement, and it's the wow, you really made sure you guarded your heart and you stayed chaste and everything. So it's not an embarrassment for us, you know, that's the difference,
Absolutely.
you know. So
Well,
yes, well done for that.
thank you. I'd like to say well done to you. I know you're not in America, but it's still an
Yeah.
accomplishment no matter where you're at. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
but I was saying to Director Z in an earlier conversation that sometimes I don't even feel like it's an accomplishment because it's so easy for me personally
Yes.
to remain one because of what's around, you know. I mean, I feel like a guy in the sense of, you know, sure I have feelings or whatever, but I can go to the gym and do an hour and a half on the treadmill and I'm fine. But when I
Yes.
go out into you know, do some jumping jacks and I'm good. But when I go into the world and I see what's out there, I'm just like that's like offering me cow manure. I don't want cow manure. So like I don't even it's not even that I feel I have to even be disciplined because it's like look at what I have to choose from. This is are you kidding me? I'm fine. This is great,
Mm.
you know. But
Yes.
I understand what everyone was saying about emotions, and I completely agree. I guess that was kind of the wrong word I should have used. I also feel like we as women, you know, physically as well as spiritually, are receivers. And you know, just like we receive men, we also, you know, receive the energy that's around us. And you know, I've become more and more spiritually sensitive, and so I can I can smell the degenerateness around me, so I don't even feel challenged in any way with steadily remaining a virgin because it's like again I don't want any of this. I'm very cautious of, you know, I can count on one hand how many people I've let into my apartment because I'm very cautious of the energy that I have around me. So I think like I've been in my apartment for over 12 years and I can count how many guests I've had. So if I'm like that way with my apartment, I think to myself, how can I let someone literally come in me figuratively and literally
Mm.
when you know I'm very sensitive about who I even have over my house. So if I have you in my bed, you know that must be you must be real special, you know. So
Indeed, and
Mm.
if I may make a point,
Yes.
I'm going to
yes,
also I'm also would like to suggest that we have to redefine what virginity is also.
mm,
And the reason why this must
Mm.
be done is because again, because of the propaganda and the deception
right,
that has been told to many people. Let's start at the top. In many people's minds, virginity is, oh, they didn't have hymen sex. They didn't have sex when the
right,
hymen was
just
broken. But yet,
Mm.
though they didn't have sex where the hymen is broken,
right,
they engage in oral sex and anal sex and other
which is
activities.
crazy. It's like
Mm.
how can you
Mm.
do that? Like the regular sex is the basic sex. If you're gonna do all that other stuff, that's like
It's
extra
even
credit.
worse.
That's like yeah, that's like extra. That's like what you do to your husband after 10 years or something. I'm not gonna give a no. That's crazy.
So,
Mm.
so I'm mentioning these things that even within this conversation, even within this space of virginity,
Right.
We must redefine not just sex, not just love. We have to reclaim what virginity actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Virginity is not dipping and dabbing.
Right.
Virginity is not recreational activity. Virginity
Right.
could not, I want to make this point. Virginity could not and has never been limited to simply sex alone.
Right.
If I gave the example, many people engage in oral sex and anal sex, and you'll yet claim that they are still virgins. So we know that's ludicrous. So now taking it to the more accurate, and I want to use the term scientific definition of what virginity has been. We're getting a bit of feedback.
Yeah, there's a lot of wind in someone's background.
Sure. You want to make
Okay.
Okay, good. So nonetheless, to take it to the more scientific and I would argue more accurate description of what virginity actually is, far beyond just sex, virginity would have to be described, if we look at it in its entirety, historically, as an entire lifestyle, as an entire culture. There's a whole culture surrounding virginity that deals with what? High standards. The best.
That's right. That's right.
Standards. So when we talk about virginity, we're not just talking about limiting oneself or maintaining high standards in sex. No, it would be high standards in your mate selection also.
That's
Absolutely.
High standards in all other areas of your life, in the type of family you organize, stable families only.
That's right.
So I'm just mentioning that oftentimes it's so minute the way virginity is discussed and expressed. Just don't have sex. That's virginity. No. Virginity would have to be much more expansive, dealing with how you take care of yourself, physically fit. Let me give an example. Let's just give this example. Have you ever heard the term virgin being applied to food, or virgin other things?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So then we realize, hold up, that's not sex. So why are we using this term towards food like virgin olives or virgin? Because it's being said to be that's the highest state that thing is in.
Purity.
And that cannot just be limited to sex. So virginity, when we're talking about virginity, I'm submitting that we need to expand and define virginity on a higher level of purity, high levels of purity and high standards in everything. Virgins would not only, or should not be only, concerned about not having sex. It should be, hold up, I need to have pure high diet. I need to have pure physical fitness, because again, when we're talking about virgin or virgin technology, you're maintaining that to be able to get married and produce very healthy children. Part of that means you have to maintain and produce great, excellent health before you even get to that point. Excellent health in diet, excellent health in the way you think or the way you're going to raise those children. It can go in so many dimensions, but I'll close by simply saying this. Virginity has to be reclaimed from just, oh, you didn't have sex. No, it's purity in everything that you do as a parent, as a spouse, as a person, and how you deal with your family, and how you deal with your culture, and how you deal with your society, just the same way the term virgin is applied to foods and many other things. What does the term new mean? It's another a synonym for virgin. New car. What you're saying is that's a virgin car that's never been owned. New house. What you're saying is you prefer a new house, is not a run-down one. And we can keep applying that to everything. When you eat food, you're eating virgin food that's never been eaten before by anybody else. When you get clothes, you get virgin underwear, I hope. Anyway,
Jesus.
that has not been worn by somebody else. I'm using these examples to give a point of how virginity is an expansive topic. It's not just not having sex. When you use a toothbrush, you get a virgin toothbrush that's never been used by someone else. So I'm using those examples as metaphors to illustrate virginity is a technology, but it has never been applied solely to sex. People that are virgins or support virginity until marriage, a virgin marriage, it is an expansive thing we're talking about.
Oh, that was a excellent add-on, because that needed to be cleared up, because again, people tend to think it's just having a quote unquote intact hymen, but it goes way beyond that. I will say that a pure society or a pure community houses pure men and women. A pure home, a pure family houses a pure woman. A pure woman's body houses a pure womb. A pure womb houses pure ovum. And a pure ovum, when germinated with a pure sperm cell, pure, immaculate, it all means the same thing, clean. When you have that immaculate kept sperm cell, that immaculate kept ovum, this produces an immaculate conception. This is what gives birth to supreme children who grow up to become supreme adults, supreme beings who do supreme things. It's really not rocket science when we look at it for what it is, but maybe, because society in general has been so lost from what's basic in common, that it would be rocket science at first. Brother Wild Wolf, I have a question. You mentioned, okay, what you were speaking on as far as not being used, so it's not anything previously owned. Let me know when you want to share that clip, because there's a clip that you wanted to share in the first podcast, but because I was new to the platform, I didn't understand the technology that I'm able to share now. I think it was titled, if I'm not mistaken, Dogs in the Street, something, chasing a dog in heat, something to that effect. I can't remember the exact title of the video.
Absolutely. I'm ready. We can go ahead and share the clip. Right before we share that clip, I'll mention just this, if I may.
Yes, sir.
With what was spoken by everyone, the guests previously, it should become more apparent to the listeners that virginity produces high quality of everything. Right. That's what virginity does. So when you have high standards, that's what the product is of having high standards. Virginity is just another euphemism for high or highest standards. So when you look at societies and cultures, as the sister Leah mentioned, when you look at those cultures that still practice virginity, look at the type of children that are produced in those cultures. Look at the type of families and marriages that are produced in those cultures. Are they intact? Do they have a proliferation of single mother households? Or do they have the majority standard is married households with children? So I just want to mention that before we segue into the clip. Virginity is technology that produces high standards in everything. Better gene pools, more intelligent gene pools. Look at the societies that practice virginity and measure their IQ next to societies that are promiscuous, and you will see the societies that get more promiscuous, they start declining. The ones that practice virginity, their IQ will go up as time goes on. Again, we don't have time in the first podcast. Just to the listeners, go to the first podcast we did. I presented studies that have been done, scientific studies showing the more promiscuous a society becomes, the lower their standards are, the morality, and eventually those societies collapse. The more societies practice discipline in sex, and one of the highest disciplines in sex is virgin marriage, the more intelligent they become, the more they develop their intelligence, the more productive they are, the more they innovate, the more their technology increases. So, but nonetheless, I just wanted to mention and emphasize that virginity until marriage, virgin marriage, is a high technological technology that produces high standards, that produces high products or positive outcomes. But go ahead, Brother Noor, if you could, you can begin the clip, and then I'll start after we end the clip. I'll talk about a few things.
Okay, so I'm going to play this clip, right? We're the opposite of what we would call virginity or selective mating would be random mating. And I'm sure it's a lot of brothers, especially the younger brothers or men in general, here in the West that are listening to this podcast, pay close attention to this clip that I'm going to play because it deals with random mating, and it's going to cause you to look at a lot of the things that you might have celebrated or cheered. You're going to look at it with disgust, right? Okay, the opposite of selective mating, again, is random mating, or what we would call horticulture or cuckoldry. Okay, so here I'm going to play a clip of a dog in heat and the way these dogs react. Okay, hold on. And then Wild Wolf is going to add off his elaboration. Okay, here we go.
One scent is unmistakable. A female in heat. In a species whose females mate for less than 2 weeks each year, pent-up males find their scent irresistible. Bandit tracks the scent to the source. Elsie is in heat. Would-be mates flock from all over, including her best friend Butter. Wherever Elsie goes, the growing pack will follow. Suddenly, Mom is coveted by other dogs. Flo and Macy seem confused why. For up to 10 days, males will find Elsie attractive, but not receptive, until she's ready to mate. Many males will appear, but only the most dominant is allowed to mate. The males must compete for the alpha position. Rusty holds the top spot. As a feral dog, he draws on his wilder roots to establish dominance over the others. For days, he guards his position. His wounds prove Elsie is worth fighting over. Ranking second, just behind Rusty, is Bandit, who scaled his fence to pursue Elsie's call. His behavior suggests he has his eyes set on first. Finally, Rusty's dominance is put to the test. Rusty has been defeated. Now Bandit is first in line for mating. days pass, the heat pack keeps growing. Bandit faces new challengers, all vying for his alpha position. In wild canines, such as wolves, the alpha male and female are already established. Only they.
Yeah. So it said at the end of that, in the wild, the alpha wolf amongst wolves, only the male and female alpha can mate. That's already established. He was speaking about wolves in comparison to dogs. But yeah, but Wild Wolf, you wanted to, or Director Z, you wanted to elaborate on that? 'Cause you said you had some fire for that, so I'm
Indeed.
ready for it.
Indeed. Also, were you able to play the last part? You know, with the
yes,
1
I can
minute?
play that.
If
Yeah, I
you
can
can
play
play
that.
that.
I can play that right now. This is 1 minute long. Hold on.
Sure.
Rocky will have to wait. Damien and Elsie have made it. Like all dogs, they remain locked together, denying other males access during potential fertilization. They'll stay locked for up to 30 minutes.
Okay, you there, bro, Wild Wolf?
Yes, sir. Indeed.
Yeah,
All right.
I know
Well,
you had
thank
some
you.
fire for that.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for playing that clip. And this clip, you know, the listeners and the viewers may be wondering, why in the world are they playing a clip about domestic dogs on a podcast about virginity? Well, it actually has a lot to do with the subject of why virgin marriage, as the title of the podcast states, virgin marriage, you know, is the superior form of marriage. Now, let's get to the video clip. In the video clip, we're watching domestic dogs. Let's be very clear here. Domestic dogs in an urban environment, which is already unnatural. So the environment is unnatural. The domestic dogs are unnatural. How can we say the domestic dogs are unnatural? Because domestic dogs are a product of human breeding. Most of the dog species, or pretty much, I would say most that we see anyway, are a product of human breeding. Humans domesticated wolves, from what the science states, and over time, over thousands of years of human interference with the natural breeding, mating practices of wolves, humans interfered and created hybrids that we call domestic dogs. So they're hybrids, they're not natural. So anything that you interfere with its natural mating practices, it's going to engage in things that you're looking at. You think it's natural after many years. It's not. In this clip, what do we see? We see dogs going into a mating frenzy, right? And in the clip, it literally tells us, it says, well, look, only 2 times a year, 2 weeks out of a year, these particular domestic dogs have for mating. Now, look very closely to show how dysfunctional mating practices separate and are not the same as natural mating practices. You see every different type of hybrid dog running after that female dog. You see small dogs, different breed dogs. I mean, I'm just saying, let's just say it. You saw everything from a Rottweiler to a pit bull to a Chihuahua to some things you can't even name. You ask yourself, is that how mating occurs in nature? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Do you see, let me give an example. Dogs are canines. They come out of the canine family. Do you see in nature a hyena running after a coyote, running after a wolf?
No.
I mean, come on. We need to process this and say, hold up, that whole thing is unnatural. So we look at things, and after seeing them being done so many times, so many years, some of us actually believe this is normal. It's not. So those domestic dogs, they are unnatural themselves. They are already unnatural. The environment they live in is unnatural. Their mating system is unnatural. They were produced by unnatural mating systems. So what you're seeing is yet again the residual result of all that unnaturalness. Now, let's go further. Not only is the way they're competing for the female unnatural, because in nature, when animals compete for mating rights, it's the fittest animals. And then it's done. It's one and done. For example, rams. If you see mountain rams, when they compete, the ones with the big horns, they'll fight, and then that's it. Whoever the loser is, they move. It's not this entire mess of rams, all running behind the winner. In other words, it's done orderly in nature. What we're seeing in this video is complete insanity. You see all type of dogs. Even though the one dog, quote unquote, asserted its dominance, you still see the others still running behind, hoping they can get a turn after he gets done. At the end of the clip, you see the dominant dog that won, the Rottweiler, I believe it was, he's mating with the female. All of the other dogs are standing around. That should tell us this is completely unnatural. Now, understand, for those that know, when domestic dogs, we're sticking with the clip, when they mate, the male with the female, whoever wins, they stay stuck together, as it mentions in that clip, in order to allow the highest chance for fertilization and to prevent the other males from being able to mate with her. Anyone that has been around dogs, has seen dogs, what do you think happens after the male and female that mated uncoupled, they come apart? What do you think is going to happen? Those other dogs are going to try to also mate with the female, even though they've been sitting there watching this dominant male dog mate with her. That should tell you what kind of mating system we're looking at right now. Random. It's a degenerate mating system by degenerate hybrid species that lives in a degenerate environment, an unnatural environment, and that's what we're seeing. So now, what does this have to do with the subject matter? When we're talking about promiscuity, when we're talking about sex recreationalism, which these are the opposite of virginity. So oftentimes, we talked about people question what's the use of keeping your virginity? As the sister said, people would tell women, get rid of it. Men would tell young men that are virgins, get rid of it. Well, you don't want to get rid of it, because what we're seeing is the result of just, quote unquote, getting rid of it. You have a bunch of uncivilized, disorderly, unnatural people all competing in unnatural ways to mate with the same people. And what you see in the clip, to summarize, what you see in the clip is what is going on with many people in many human societies right now. They may not think it is. When you're dealing with people that go to unnatural environments to mate, such as nightclubs, bars, restaurants, strip clubs, what do you think they're doing? All those degenerate males are sitting around trying to compete. They're watching each other sexually, I guess, proposition the same females. Some of them are even having sex in these venues or whatever. A lot of them even know that another male just had sex with that same female, and they don't care. Now, let's go further. Some people say, well, they don't participate in that. They just get a woman, after if she's single. Well, hold up. Let's stop. Don't you know people do that same thing in their own private homes? They have people, women that juggle men. The woman with this man one day, she's with another man. There's no difference. When I say no difference, it's pretty much the same thing on a biological basis. It's just the time frame may be different than what you see with those dogs. So I'm going to summarize by saying this. There's very little difference between what is happening with those dogs sitting around waiting till the other dog finishes mating with her and then they try to mate with her. There's very little difference between that and what we see with the corrupted mating practices in many human societies today, where males will literally tell themselves, you know what, she's single. What does single mean? She just broke up with a quote unquote boyfriend last month. I mean, are you kidding me? Is that what you're going to say? Oh, this toothbrush hasn't been used in a month. Hold up. This underwear hasn't been used in a month. Hold up. This, I could go on and on. All it is you're doing a degenerate mating practice like those dogs. You're telling yourself, you've been brainwashed to tell yourself that it's okay. Just a certain amount of time has passed. I don't know, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, according to each interpretation. It's no different. That's random mating. It's not mating for the purpose of forming a family, a lifelong mateship or a marriage and a family. It's basically just whoever gets their turn next. And that's what produces degenerate children. A lot of the reasons why, and I close on this, a lot of the reasons why a lot of children are being born with all sorts of different infirmities, I suggest we need to look directly at the mating habits. If the mating habits is just any type of species, any type of hybrid running in there, getting a turn, what do you expect to come out? And I'll close.
You know, I'm glad that you brought that up and that you gave that explanation, Director Z, because what's a common thing in the lower aspect of quote unquote hood culture is something known as running trains or flips. And in these scenarios or circumstances, the idea of quote unquote reproducing is not even thought of. It's just strictly recreational. And it'll be just one woman and it'll be a whole bunch of guys taking turn after turn after turn. And that video that we just played, that right there summarizes, and that's why I'm glad I wanted to play that. You know what I'm saying? Because there are males, men and women that participate in this, and I wanted them to see exactly what it is that they're doing. So as you mentioned prior to earlier this morning before we got on the podcast, that a dog is a degenerate canine. You compared the dog to the wolf. The dog's mating system, the domesticated dog to that of the wolf. Would you mind sharing that comparison for the guests as well as those in the listening audience?
Sure. Domestic dogs, yet again, are a product of human breeding. I want to emphasize that so much. Domestic dogs are not a natural species.
They're grafted.
They're interruption in nature's natural mating system. Wolves, from what the science states right now, humans many years ago, thousands of years ago, took wolves and domesticated them. In other words, they enslaved wolves and they kept instituting these breeding practices among the enslaved wolves, because that's the word I'm going to call it. That's what a zoo is. That's what a circus animal is. It's an enslaved animal. And they, over time, broke down these animals' natural instincts, natural lifestyle, natural behavior patterns by keeping them in an unnatural environment, a controlled, contained environment, and mating them. And that now is what you see in many of the different dog species. So I say that to say wolves, on the other hand, do not mate like domestic dogs. In the wolf society or wolf families, only the breeding pair mates. That's it. It's no competition. It's not any Chihuahua and a Doberman and a Pit Bull and all this other competing or running up to mate. No, it's already understood. It's extremely controlled. So secondly, wolves don't live in unnatural environments. Wolves live in the wild, what we call nature. Let's call it nature. Let's not even call it the wild. Wolves live in nature. They live in a natural environment that supports their mating system. They eat natural foods that strengthen their bodies to give them the optimum health to mate. Domestic dogs don't. They're scavengers. Domestic dogs are scavengers. They don't even have the same operating system as wolves. Wolves control territory. They patrol territory. Wolves maintain the balance of certain species in the territories that they live, so that, for instance, animals that are ruminants that eat vegetation their population doesn't grow to the point where they'll just consume all the vegetation. Wolves are a major reason why those animals, those ruminants or those cattle, their numbers remain workable in the environment or the ecosystem. So I'm making the point of domestic dogs are degenerate species, human engineered degenerate species for wolves. And now we see clearly, even though they allegedly are in the same species, they have completely different mating habits and completely different outcomes. Bringing it back to people now. Just because somebody is biologically related as human, that doesn't mean they're the same subspecies, because you can look at the mating habits. Just like you look at the domestic dog and say, hold up, you mean to you tell me you as an individual, you as a family, your family, you as a group of people, whoever you are, you practice promiscuity? You mean to tell me sex recreationalism is the norm? You mean to tell me random sex, random mating is the norm? And then you look at the outcome. Single parent homes, sexually transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted infections, broken homes, fatherless homes. That's the outcome of that unnatural human mating system. And then you turn around and now look, just like we compare the unnatural dogs and what they end up with to the wolf, and we see it's a complete difference. We compare the unnatural humans mating system, random mating, sex recreationalism, promiscuity, prostitution, etc., etc. Then we compare that to the cultures in the natural human mating systems, which is what? Virgin marriage, virginity and celibacy and abstinence until marriage. And we see a completely different outcome. Over here with the natural human mating system, we see stable homes, two-parent homes, children that generally have higher intelligence. We see people that have usually almost always a stronger family economy. We see less poverty. We see almost less or almost no orphanages, and the list goes on. So to answer your question, that's some of what I was conveying when we spoke earlier about we have to redefine what makes someone compatible for mating. You are incompatible for mating if someone else is practicing a different mating system. Let me say it simply. You're not the same species. They are whatever they are, and you are whatever you are. If you're following natural mating, which is virgin marriage, you're not the same species as someone that practices promiscuity. You're not. You're not compatible for mating. They are different species. They're hybrid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's something that I'm glad you mentioned also. It's a lot of points that we just fiery points we elaborating on, dropping and elaborating on, because this one right here that you mentioned and elaborated on needs to be stressed, because I'm just going to say it because there's no nice way to say it, but we have to get out of the idea that every person that is melanin dominant, right, is quote unquote our people. Now, I know this is going to be unpopular for me to say in certain circles, but this needs to be said. Just because someone has melanin like you and probably grew up in the same country, even the same neighborhood, have the same accent, that does not mean you are of the same tribe. If you have a different mating system, if you have a different dietary system, therefore your blood is going to be different. If you have a different value system, therefore your culture and the way you practice your way of life is going to be different. You are of a different tribe altogether. Period. You're not the same.
Might I mention this?
Yes, sir.
This touches on all ethnicities, all races, all peoples. The Amish. Right. Has everybody heard of the Amish?
Absolutely.
Yes, the Amish are not going to mate with non-Amish people. They don't care if you look like them.
Right.
Because for the Amish, they may present it as religious reasons, but if we're looking on the genetic or the evolutionary reason, the Amish know that the minute they start mating with people that may look like them skin color wise, but they're not practicing the same lifestyle, they have made themselves extinct the minute they start doing that. The idea of just because somebody shares the same physiognomy or skin color and other features is enough to qualify for mating, that doesn't hold sway in nature or in traditional culture. So I say this to say, let me say this as succinctly as possible. If you mate a wolf with a dog, you're destroying the wolf. The wolf doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
If you mate with someone that doesn't practice, if you're a person that practices virgin marriage, virginity until marriage, virginity, abstinence, and celibacy until marriage. If you mate with someone that practices sex recreationalism, random mating, premarital sex, promiscuity, whoredom, you are destroying yourself. You cannot reproduce yourself in those children. What you are doing is creating a hybrid. What you are doing is committing genetic suicide.
Right.
Yeah. I'd like to comment on the video.
Sure.
Something, we've all heard the saying, that women like to say all men are dogs, right?
Right.
Okay. So when I watched that video, it made me think, obviously they mean that as an insult, but when I watched the video of when the dogs finally did mate and they were stuck together for that time to make sure that nobody else got to the female dog, to reproduce. I thought to myself, like, well, even dogs have some type of a moral compass or some type of standard, and you mentioned Honora, you mentioned running trains, how that's a popular thing. Well, if dogs can stick together literally on that video, or to make sure that no one else has access to that woman, it made me think, like, wow, like, even in this society, people don't even do that. It's like, once I'm done, you can have her. I don't care. Like, I got off. Now here you go. Like, I don't care what happens.
Or if you want to get, I'm not being explicit, but I'm just stating something factual. Like you said, the dog will make sure no other dog touches it while it's while he's locked in with it. Degenerate people, two men will be on one woman at the same time, even three men. So they're even lower than the dogs if you're getting down like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, like you said, they'll have two or three even at once, but it's just like, long as they're okay with passing their woman around or passing her, like, hey, I had her, she can do this. And then women, a lot of these degenerate women will brag about how many men they've had.
Right.
So not only is the guy bragging, she's also bragging. So everybody's in agreement with the more the merrier, basically. And dogs even have a standard, like, I'm not, like, no, this is mine and you're not touching it. So I think that's funny. So even with that said, all men aren't dogs. Dogs are better.
Well, let's say this. For those males it applies to, they are that. But there's superior men and self-respecting moral men all over the world.
Of course.
Considerable amounts of us that we don't practice random mating, promiscuity, whoredom, prostitution, and we have established families and wives and children, and we are raising up our families to be virgins. I'm
mentioning that to say they're saying all men are dogs as an insult when they themselves aren't even practicing what actual dogs are doing. If they were actually practicing what dogs were doing, they would actually have some kind of standard.
Absolutely. Yes. And if I might throw this one part in, I know the other sister's going to come in. If I might throw this one part in real quick. When we talk about, we need to redefine yet again, because we could see it looking at the video and get, for those people have sense and got some sort of disgust. But we need to question even the way people think about the unnatural mating practices that they follow. I'm going to propose a scenario right now. Is there anyone, whether it is the guests, the fellow panelists, my fellow panelists, or even the listeners, how many of you, by a show of hands or put it in the chat box, would use a toothbrush that somebody else used?
No.
So I'm using that. Okay, fine. We got past that. How many of you would put on somebody's drawers after they done took off the drawers and just said, here's the drawers, or maybe they say, well, look, I'll just put it down and you could come use it after I'm done with it. How many?
No.
So why am I saying this? I'm not trying to be facetious. When you use a toothbrush, that toothbrush contains that person's biological material. Toothbrush creates, when you brush your teeth, it creates microscopic tears in your gums. And genetic material is still on that toothbrush even after you wash it off. It's microscopic. When you wear underwear, look, your underwear contains genetic material from you wearing it. I'm just keeping it as simple as possible. When you look, when you drink a cup, somebody, a lot of people have this habit. They drink and hand it to the next person. I'm not criticizing. I'm making a simple point. When you drink off of a cup, that cup has some of your genetic material from your mouth on that cup. So I'm using those examples to show how a lot of people would say, no, I wouldn't do that. But they make this distinction between passing women around, sharing the same women, etc. It's like, are you crazy? It's no distinction. Why? Look, how many people are aware how long sperm can stay up in a woman's body after a man, a male sleeps with her? Exactly. How many people are aware? Not many people. So I'm making the point of, just because we're looking at dogs, 10, 15 dogs all trying to sleep with her at once, well, what's the difference between that and a woman, men sleeping with a woman that slept with the same amount of men over a longer period of time?
Right. It's compulsory.
It's no difference, is what I'm saying. All you're doing is saying it's okay because the time frame is stretched out. What they call serial monogamy is nothing but prostitution and whoredom and promiscuity. They, in Western society, they try to legitimize the random mating, the whoredom and the prostitution and the promiscuity by saying it's serial relationships. It's serial marriage. But hold up. Look, 15 people over the course of a month put on somebody's underwear. You're telling me that's better than 15 people putting on the same pair of drawers in one day? Is that what you're telling me? That biologically, I'm not arguing this with feelings. I'm saying biologically it's the same act. 15 people over the course of a month that wear the same exact underwear is the same biological activity as 15 people wearing the same underwear in the same day. 15 people brushing their teeth in one day with the same toothbrush biologically is the same as 15 people over the course of a month brushing their teeth with that same toothbrush. We're not playing games here because this is a propaganda to legitimize promiscuity, prostitution, random mating, order. If we're going to go to it, we need to deal with it on scientific, genetic level. Promiscuity is the same as what we see in that video. All dogs, hybrid dogs trying to sleep with the same. It doesn't matter the period of time. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sister. I know the sister had something to say.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Just to add to your point with natural and unnatural environments, this is why when we see in Western culture, the push for foods, that have GMOs, the push for the media that has the whoredom culture, then they try to spread that around the world because it's an unnatural, domesticated animal that they try to create even in humans. And then when we see the more natural Eastern environments where the food is more organic, they are more in the environments with people who look like them, specifically in Africa, and there's more of that culture that is rooted to the ground and the ancestors, then the people are under more pressure to act accordingly to culture. So even if the Western society, they push this narrative that it's extreme, it actually helps this the families and keeps them intact, because if you look at the statistics according to the UN as well, there's a 96% marriage in most African countries. 96%. Wow. There's only literally, so the single mother culture is always a minority, even though now, of course, with Western influence, it could be growing, but it's still looked as a minority type of culture that is not acceptable, even within families. And then random mating is not rewarded, but what is rewarded is marriage. So, for instance, you will not get a stipend or welfare or anything if you are a single mother. But
Come on.
you will get advantages, rights, and even looked as in society as someone who is a proper woman when you are married. So everybody looks to that and wants to be that woman, not just for the society, but for yourself and your femininity and your sanity and your security.
That's
Because for
right.
us, we are protected in the home. We're not
That's
kicked out
right.
at 18. We're protected
Mm.
in the home, and then from home we move under our husband's authority,
That's
because the
right.
woman, she's seen as a diamond who must be protected. And so that's why random mating is not rewarded. And you'll see that even in the Middle East, they still have
Mm.
raids in the home for cohabitation. That's not allowed. It's illegal to
Mm.
cohabitate. So you are actually arrested if you don't have a marriage certificate,
I need to move
and
there.
then and yes, and in Tanzania, basically as well, women dress very modestly. They are allowed freedom in the evening when they go out to the clubs or whatnot, but even then they dress very elegantly. No one is half naked, no one's wearing
Mm.
booty shorts or leggings on their own. So it's a
Mm.
very, and this is just done to protect the woman, and for the men to see the woman as someone to marry, someone to protect, someone to value,
Mm.
someone to love, as opposed to seeing her as someone just to discard and to
Mm.
use and mistreat and abuse, because it creates this in the man's mind. It's like when you see food that is out in the open and all the flies are around, you won't want the food anymore. But if you see it covered, it looks good. You want to more of the food, you want to taste the food, you'll respect the food, you'll cherish the food. So it's the
That's right.
same type of concept, but obviously in a more deeper type of element. And it's also been proven, of course, that virgin marriages last longer, and two-parent households produce very healthy children of sound mind. And so that's all I had to add. I do have to go now. So I just do want to thank you, Sultan Allah, for having me on your show. And I want to thank you all for, listening and hearing me out as well. But I'll definitely be listening in further as well.
I
Indeed.
love
Yes.
everything you said.
Yes, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
your contribution towards the to the broadcast. So it's very valued and very much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Thank
Seriously.
you for having me on your show.
You are welcome. You
Indeed.
are
Thank
welcome.
you for being on the show too.
Thank you, Brother Waldorf. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your contribution. It's
Thank
very,
you.
very profound.
Love everything you said.
And thank you, Sister Bashira, and you as well. I enjoyed everything you said. Very profound as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want to just state I want to, which is inside the comment, not the comment section, the description, right? Because there were questions
Yes.
that were pertained to, asked of me after the last podcast, and I'm just going to read it from the top to bottom. In response to recent requests for information about one, how to determine if women are virgins; two, how to locate virgins; three, how to marry a virgin; four, virgin marriage, arranged marriage, and traditional marriage courses, services, and initiatives. Five, counseling and support services for virgins, abstinents, and celibates until marriage. Please review the following links. Educational courses that support virgin marriage, arranged marriage, and traditional marriage. We have a course for vacuum, VACUM, which is virginity, abstinence, and celibacy until marriage. Then there's the SMV, strategies to marry a virgin. And then there's the marriage sex education program. And then there's the premarital background investigation. Initiatives that support virgin marriage, arranged marriage, and traditional marriage. So you have the vacuum again, virginity, abstinence, and celibacy until marriage support group. The link to that is also included inside the description. And in general, we have, let's see, the Society of Marriage and Family Services. We have the link to that inside the description. Questions and answers. If you are seeking educational courses, please use the MAFA Academy link to review and register in the classes which meet your interests. The MAFA Academy courses and programs, the link to that is included inside the description. If you are seeking consultation services, please use the consultation services link to review consultation days and times and schedule a consultation. The link to that is included inside the description. And last but not least, if you are seeking educational development services, please use the educational content link to review and acquire services. Educational content development services, the link to that is inside the description. We also ask for those that seek to assist us in continuing to contribute or deliver more high-powered, superior content and information with your contributions, you can Cash App Supreme Herbal Healing, LLC, which is the cash symbol, Supreme Herbal Healing, one word. And you can also Cash App the Society of Family and Marriage, which is SOMAF, with the cash symbol, Tenet Culture. All of this is included inside the description. You can also see that last part in the ticker that's going across the screen in the bottom. So if anyone, sounds like somebody wanted to say something.
Yeah, I would like to just say something in regards to what Brother Director Z said.
Yeah.
When he mentioned about the toothbrush and the underwear and how many people would, say, I want to wear that underwear regardless to how, how much time has passed or whatever. I think, of course, I would never, but I think about how people, like when I was younger and was in a poor situation growing up, and I had to buy clothes from Goodwill. I didn't buy them; my caretakers bought clothes from Goodwill. God willing, it wasn't underwear or anything like that. But I'd say, how many of those people, and hopefully, and I know at Goodwill they have a procedure where they wash and clean the clothes. Women, as women or who are receivers, how many women before they move on to their next relationship, whether it be physical, obviously it's physical in this society, have, fasted, prayed, change their diet, say, okay, I'm going to go on like a lot of Christians do a Daniel fast where they don't eat meat, say, I'm going to go on a Daniel fast until I meet my next boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? None of them. It's just, I like this guy. I'm done with Johnny. Now I'm with Mike. And, of course, now that I'm with Mike, I'm having sex with Mike. There's no purification process between Johnny and Mike. So just like the whole underwear situation, hopefully, if you're that nasty to wear some underwear that somebody else used, you put a ton of bleach on it or something. But most people, in a relationship, they don't say, okay, I know you've had multiple sex partners. Have you been fasting? Have you been, what kind of purification process have you been going through before I showed up? It's just like, oh no, I'm not talking to him. Now let's get it on, So I just wanted to add that too. At least, hopefully people wash the clothes. If they're going to have hand-me-down clothes, they don't wash them,
Indeed. And if I may say something, because of course, as you have mentioned, I've heard some people present this idea that they can purify. Some people live a life of debauchery for years, and then lo and behold, when the biological clock starts ticking, they now come to this what we would call this revelation, this
epiphany
that somehow they are now ready, and now they're going to put on a front and present themselves as prime mating material. Well, I think we have to question that. I know we have to question that, because let's ask the question: how can you purify the mental trauma?
Listen.
I'm just saying, we know from psychological studies that have been done on trauma in a whole variety of different environments. Soldiers coming back from war, that trauma stays with you for life. A lot of soldiers can't even function, and they probably were only in the theater of war for 1 month, 1 year, whatever, and that trauma stays with them for life. They could never function the same. They need help for the rest of their life. I'm giving examples. Children that are abused, that trauma stays with them
That's
for
right.
life. These are studies
right.
after studies after studies have been done on trauma in a whole bunch of different environments. Different types of trauma shows that certain type of trauma, that's like a lifelong thing. You're just going to manage. You got to manage it. You're never going to get rid of it because it's certain type of trauma that's so deep and ingrained. You know, you can become functional, but you'll never be able to completely eradicate it. So I'm using that as an example. The idea that I've heard some people actually present that they can go and do some sort of, I don't know, cultural mojo or whatever. Some people even have the insanity to say they can convert to a religion, and the religious conversion heals them and cleanses them. It's preposterous. Can you, I'm going to give an example now. People that sleep around, have sex, promiscuity, they're unmarried, random mating, sex recreationalism, prostitution, whoredom, whatever. Can you cleanse out the HIV virus out of yourself? That's genetic.
No.
That's genetic.
No.
That's genetic.
There's no such
absolutely,
thing as...
what I was saying, I think it's all wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree. Can you cleanse out? Can you cleanse out that illegitimate child? That's genetic trauma.
No, there's no such thing as somebody taking shahada or bearing witness to Christ or whoever, and then all of a sudden, prior to that, you might have had herpes, tested positive. Now all of a sudden, you bore witness to that secondary information, and it's gone. And I'm not saying this to belittle anyone's faith. What we're saying is we're dealing with primary information, which is science, mathematics, actual fact. There is no such thing as a reformed whore. Yes, we do encourage everyone to clean up their lives and live the best life that they can, but there is no such thing as a reformed whore. If we truly understand, yes, you can clean yourself up and, you know, do what you can, but she's not to be mated with, added to the gene pool. You do not mix her with the virgins. In other words, let me ask a question. This is something, an example Wild Wolf would probably pull forth. But if you had a bunch of, a whole farm of organic apples, producing organic apple seed in organic soil, right? And then you found an apple on the street somewhere, all genetically modified, chemically modified, just a totally grafted apple. Would you take the seeds from that apple and then plant it in that soil with the pure apple tree and the pure soil and the pure apple seeds? Would you do that? Would you take that apple? It's just a question. And would you put it in that? Would you put it in the soil where the organic soil where the organic apple trees are growing? Would you take the seeds or the seeds of those apples and mix it? No, you wouldn't. You might clean it up if you call yourself want to do that, but you're going to plant it somewhere else. So again, we have to understand that mate selection and farming is pretty much the same thing. A wise farmer is not going to take corrupted seed, even if it's been washed off. You know, you're not going to correct the genetic modification and the chemical modification of a seed just by washing it off, you know. So he's not going to take a chemically or GMO seed that's been washed off and then plant it in organic soil with other organic seed. It doesn't work that way. And the same applies to mating. No, you're going to contaminate the pure, you know, the pure soil. So
if I may, I agree. If I may say this, we also have to make sure we include that not only do you have to separate and quarantine the degenerate promiscuous females, you got to do the same thing with the degenerate males. And we could see this for a fact, because when we look at a lot of the degenerate males, we will call them savages, the dogs. When we look at a lot of degenerate males that have no problem all circulating and sleeping with the same females, how do we know this is an absolute fact that brings nothing but chaos? In many modern communities, I'm not going to get specific, I'm just going to stay general. In many modern communities that practice unnatural mating habits, is it not a fact that many females in those environments have children by multiple males?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
I'm giving an example. And even though they have children by those multiple males, in most cases they're never married, so they never formed a family to begin with. And a lot of those situations, there's no support for the children, or it's very little, it's lacking, it's nothing but a whole unstable mess. So I'm using an example of we need to make sure we emphasize that not only when we're talking about people that practice natural, healthy, selective mating, virgin marriage, virginity, celibacy, and abstinency until marriage, virginity, not only does that group have to be careful about who they mate with, that group has to quarantine themselves from mating with the random mating people. Because if you allow the random mating people that practice promiscuity, sex recreationalism, premarital sex, prostitution, if you allow one of those people from that group into your group, they're going to bring the trauma with them. All they know is trauma. So they're going to bring all that trauma. And I'm saying it to say there's this idea that people have. I gave the example with the one, mentioned with the one person, but we gotta make it universal. You have some people, some men and some women that believe they could run rampant, waste their youth, destroy their prime fertile mating years, not get married, but sleep around. And then they have the insane idea, which is totally against nature, that on a magical number, a magical day, 30 years old, 40 years old, they're going to settle down and then be able to form a healthy family with somebody from the selective mating group. No, you've already programmed yourself.
Right.
You dear random mater, you've already programmed yourself with sex recreationism, premarital sex, prostitution. You've already programmed yourself to be a degenerate. How in the world are you going to snap your fingers and just magically now, because some people think they're going to do it through culture. Some people think they're going to do it through some religious conversion, cultural, spiritual, whatever. How in the world do you think you're going to just snap your fingers and now practice the selective mating discipline that takes a lifetime to build up? How do you think you're going to now practice that successfully? No. We know that's not the case.
Right.
So I want to emphasize that we need to make sure we emphasize those that practice selective mating, high quality mating. You need to completely segregate yourself, your household, and your family, everything around you from anybody dealing with random mating. Random maters are a hybrid degenerate species. We're not concerned about them. They can random mate themselves into genetic oblivion and extinction if they desire. But the minute those people try to come over to quote unquote your side, what they're doing is basically coming to destroy your species. They're not coming over to say, oh, I want to be like you. No, they're going to come and try to replicate their dysfunctional and degenerate behavior if they try to marry somebody from your group.
Right. Okay. Yes. Thank you for that. Add-on, Director Z. I'm going to address one of the comments here. This is from You Supreme, brother out in Philly. He says, or you can say, which soil would be best to plant your seed in, the best soil or one that has been corrupted? The best soil, obviously, end quote. Well, to that, I would say, yeah, but the best soil and also the best seed. You don't want to put contaminated seed, because the messenger said that the male carries a seed. And this is what Brother Wawo said earlier, Director Z, about even quarantining from the defective or degenerate men. You don't want to put the corrupt or contaminated seed inside of pure soil, nor do you want to put a pure organic seed inside of contaminated soil. Either which way, you mess up the process. So yeah, you would want to put a clean, healthy seed inside of clean, healthy soil. That's the way that we get, clean, healthy product, clean, healthy, whole, high-grade human beings, which leads to a clean, healthy, whole, high-grade society.
Right. If I may throw this in there, Brother Sultan, yes, the thing people need to realize is mating is both precognitive, meaning your mating system is already encoded in you before you're born.
Right. Yes.
Animals already know how they're going to mate. It's already in their DNA. And of course, there's some fostering and environmental development, but for the most part, we can look at animals and see, okay, well, they understand how to mate. It's already encoded in them before they're even born. I'm using that as an example to stretch this conversation to, you know, to be where it really needs to go.
Right.
When we're talking about random mating and degenerate mating, those that want to be promiscuous, they don't want to support or practice virgin marriage, virginity, celibacy, and abstinence until marriage. Random mating produces degenerate males that don't want to take care of families. Random mating cannot produce a responsible male family leader. It cannot. The only thing random mating produces, if you look at it on a sociological level, random mating produces pimps, drug dealers, criminals, just lowdown of the lowdown. That's all random mating has ever been shown to produce. It's never been shown to produce people with a high intelligence, people that are law-abiding, people that are productive, people that are responsible, people that have an active drive to be self-sufficient, business owners. Random mating doesn't produce that. And people may hear and think, oh, he's just saying that. No, I'm talking about scientific studies. And I'll just quote it. I don't need to go to it because it'd be too much. But I'll just quote the scientific study. This is from the Smithsonian. I can share the information in it. Matter of fact, you know what? I'll share it. As we talk along, I'll share it. But I'll just read this. There were scientific studies done on the difference between dogs and wolves. And part of what this scientific study found was this, quote, one recent study shows how by bonding with us and learning to work together with humans, dogs may have actually become worse at working together as a species. Their pack lifestyle and mentality appear to be reduced and is far less prevalent even in wild dogs than it is in wolves. Let me just summarize what that means. What that simply means is dogs, that's a hybrid, that's an artificial species created by people. The dogs no longer know how to behave like natural wolves. So when a person that practices a pure mating system such as wolves, when you mate, guess what? That doesn't just create healthy, physically healthy, or intellectually healthy children. That also reproduces the family system of working together. If you paired a dog and a wolf and mated, that child of the dog and the wolf wouldn't act like a dog and it wouldn't act like a wolf.
Whoa.
So the idea of people that practice a selective mating system, virginity, virgin marriage, mated with people that practice random mating, promiscuity, sex recreationalism, recreational sex, is insanity, because you're not going to produce what you are if you are a person that practice selective mating. The child is going, what type of cognitive framework do you think that's going to go into that child? It's nothing. All the child is going to grow up with, they see one parent random mating the other child. The child is going to say, what in the world is this? Which way to go? So I wanted to mention that science has found, by studying animals, wolves and dogs is the example I'm giving, that hybrid species that practice unnatural mating habits do not even act and conduct themselves in the ecosystem like the natural species that practices selective mating. They don't act the same. They're not the same.
Interesting. Yeah, that I think that actually touches what you Supreme said. Indeed, a healthy seed in a clean soil is superior. Brother Wow, that was a beautiful elaboration. Before we conclude this, there was something that we discussed, you and I discussed yesterday, that we wanted to bring up, that you mentioned to remind you to bring up on a show, on the topic, I'm sorry, on the broadcast. And that was historically the mating practice of kings, the mating practices of kings of antiquity, and how, in our, over here in the West, on our side of the planet, there's a big popular thing for, a lot of folks to call themselves king and queen and empress and et cetera, Now, if we study the kings and queens of antiquity, right? Many of the kings, in order for a woman to be a queen was merely the wife of a king. And a wife could only be a virgin. Now, of course, some of these kings had concubines, some of these kings had personal courtesans. However, if they produced children via their courtesan, for those in the listening audience who might not know what a courtesan is well, now they redefined it as prostitute, but in the times of antiquity, it was high class prostitutes. These are women who slept specifically with what we would call the aristocrats and aristocracy. A lot of times they were monogamous, meaning they were to that one man only, but she served solely his sexual purposes and nothing else. So that's the term of courtesan, generally, prostitute, high class prostitute. But anyway, so the kings, if they had queens and they had concubines and some had courtesans. However, if they had children with the queen, which was their wife, and they had children with the concubine, and they had children with the courtesan, right? Only the child of the queen could inherit the throne. In other words, the king could have sons from each. The king, the queen, the concubine, the courtesan, but only the sons produced from his wife, the queen, would inherit the throne. And the science behind this, or the belief, was that the children produced by the queen would be higher IQ, higher intelligent, higher grade children who would be more capable of leading the society into prosperity and protection than the children of his courtesans. So this is just an example of selective mating. One example of selective mating and why virginity was valued. So in other words, a woman couldn't call herself a queen or an empress if she was a whore. Today, we have a lot of whores out here, loose women. She rode what they call the carousel and was out in the streets. She belonged to the streets until she heard Brother Hotep El Messiah a lecture from him. Now she's conscious, she's awake, and now she's not, Quatasha anymore. She's Queen, Empress, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I said all that to say that queens and empresses, as you mentioned yesterday, Wild Wolf, they earned that title based on their moral character, their values, their virtues. Is there anything that you wanted to add on top of that, Brother Wild Wolf? Because I remember yesterday you asked me to bring that forward and to mention that on the podcast.
Yes, well, thank you for that. Well, absolutely, as you stated, royalty and aristocracy and the rules that surrounded who those classes married, they were absolutely founded on the idea or the practice of selective mating. You could not marry who you wanted as a king. You couldn't marry who you wanted in a royal or noble family. They were literally 100%, even though it may not have been expressed as we're using scientific language. But still, you will see the foundation of that when you look at those things in those texts. They wanted to make sure their gene pool continued and got better. That's why they look for people that were in a similar class. And when we say class can be stretched to include a lot of things, but they wanted to make sure those people, that there's children married among that family, was of a high caliber, however you want to describe caliber. So as far as the term, those titles, queen, king, empress, prince, I mean, the way many people are using it today, it just makes no sense. It's just ridiculous. And I'm not just talking about just descent, just hereditary descent. As I think you're indicating, we're talking about it more on even the moral level and lifestyle level. I mean, come on, virginity was just a standard just across the board in most societies, a prevalence of societies in the past. So that would have been something that you needed to have to be a queen. Right. You had to have that. It's just No way around it. Even talking about it is like, it's like, okay, the sky rises. Okay, that's how germane that sort of expectation would have been.
Right.
And as opposed to it just goes to show, it's another example of how low the random mating standards are, where anybody could just attach themselves to any title and don't have to have the background, the foundation of morality in it. Anybody could claim to be this, whatever it is, male or female, and they're the biggest whore and the biggest pimp or biggest degenerate running around. And now they can claim, no, there's qualifications, genetic qualifications. There's no way around it. This whole idea of just going to read some information and the information just snaps you back to reality, that's insanity. That's that's fantasy. So no, to your point, to be a queen, part of the qualifications, not just of a queen, but just of royalty and aristocracy, it required you to practice the highest level mating system.
Right. Yeah. So you definitely wanted to add that on. So we're not gonna we actually wanted to keep this at 2 hours. We're 5 minutes over the mark, which is not that bad. 2 hours and 5 minutes. If anyone wanted to, well, first I want to thank Layla, who participated. She actually had to log off and tend to some things earlier. I want to thank Bashira, who participated and for what she contributed. I want to thank Director Z, aka Wowwolf, for his contribution. I want to thank everybody for their contributions and their time, and I hope, and it's my desire and my niyat, that everyone who listens to this not only gets some information, but that can change their lives, but also inspiration to put it into practice and to be better and do better. You know, if anyone in the comments or watching the video has any questions, comments, or suggestions, put it in now, because we're going to soon close if there are none. Director Z, Bashira, if any of you have any closing things that you want to state, or questions or comments or suggestions to either of us that are on the podcast, or to those in the listening audience, feel free. Before I open up for that, I want to state again that for those that want to support and contribute towards us bringing more superior information, more high-level, high-technology information, you can feel free to support and send your cash apps to Tenet Culture, which is the cash, the $, Tenet Culture. T is in truth, I is in Islam, N is in now, E is in equality, T is in truth again, and culture. C is in culture, U is in universe, L is in love, T is in truth again, U is in universe, R is in ruler, E is in equality. One word, Tenet Culture with the $. And the same thing with, you can also send Cash App contributions towards Supreme Herbal Healing, SUPREME HERBALHEALING, one word with the cast $ beforehand. But everything is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It has scrolled across the bottoms from the beginning, from the onset. And now I want to open up the floors to any last comments, questions, suggestions, recommendations, etc.
I would just like to say to the listening audience, well, first I'd like to say to you, Honora, that, and Director Z, thank you for having me on and talking with me and having me join. But I also like to say to the listening audience, like, whether you are a man or a woman, if you're a virgin in this society, don't be ashamed. Don't let your peers, even though we're out of high school, but don't let your peers and things like that try to peer pressure you or make you feel bad for remaining a virgin for whatever reason it is. Hopefully it's until marriage, but don't let anyone make you feel bad. And, guard yourself, especially when we need to not just, we need to guard ourselves. That's something that I'm learning. It's hard because, messages are all around you through music, magazines, people, just in daily conversation. But, like like the Bible says, guard your gates, meaning guard your senses, what you hear, what you see, what you taste, what you eat, and what you touch, like, so guard yourself from all the degeneracy and the negative energy that's around you, to not just remain chaste in the sense of being a virgin, but also pure of thought and stuff like that, so you don't feel like something's wrong, or like maybe I should be doing this, or just don't even entertain it, because as much as you can, because it is all around you, but just keep that negative energy away from you and don't feel bad for being a virgin.
Right. Director Z, if there's anything that you want to close with,
Yes. As the sister Bashira just said, I definitely thank you, Brother Sultan Anor, for the opportunity to yet again participate in such a very important podcast, especially on this subject. And I thank my fellow panelists, Sister Bashira and the other sister, I forget her name.
Layla,
I'm sorry, for appearing. Very profound information and experiences that you all shared. So thank you as well. I would close off by saying this. First and foremost, as Sister Bashira just said, yes, to anyone that's listening or will be listening at a later date, if you are a virgin and if you support virgin marriage and if you support virginity, abstinence, and celibacy until marriage, you have nothing to explain to these people out here that are questioning you, acting as if something's wrong with you. You don't have to explain why you're a virgin to anybody. If somebody comes up, asks you why you're a virgin, and they're doing it in a disrespectful manner or trying to pressure you into something, breaking your stances, tell them, get lost. Get lost. You don't have to, you don't owe them anything. Do they explain when they go to that whorehouse called a strip club to you? Do they explain to you why they went to the STD clinic to get the fifth medicine this week? They're not explaining their degeneracy to you, so you don't have to explain anything whatsoever to them. That's the first thing. So stand up for what you're about, and don't concern yourself with their petty, low life views. Now, secondly, I would mention this: things that we need to encapsulate, things that we all can do to support and promote virgins and virgin marriage. So we want to make sure we mention this. It takes responsible and productive men to institute male family leadership and take control of their households and families. Virgin marriage was produced by and must be protected by and is only sustainable by responsible and productive male family leaders. That's not saying that women don't have a role. No, not at all. But I'm talking on a society level, on a community level. For virginity and virgin marriage to actually continue, it's not an individual practice. That's a social practice of a group. So it takes men to take command of their families and institute law and order in the families to make sure you stop people from conducting themselves or practicing random mating. Secondly, create lifelong marriages and stable families. That's one of the sources that produces productive, cohesive communities. So instead of random mating, stop all random mating. Start creating a lifelong marriage and a stable family. Now you're going to create the environment that supports virgin marriage and virginity until marriage. Third, male family leaders must protect the virginity of their sons and their daughters and protect their male and female household members or prevent them from engaging in any form of premarital sex. That's what being a man is. When we're using the term man, it's used too loosely. We have to reclaim that term. A man is governing. He's a governor. So
absolutely.
If you call yourself a man and people in your household under your authority are practicing random mating, catching STDs, up and down in child support, I mean, just the insanity, the traumatic insanity. If that's the type of household you call yourself being a man over, you're not in charge of anything. So being a man meaning you must be governing your household. And one of the things that show you a man is governing his household or his family or his community or his culture or his people prevent people from engaging in random mating and premarital sex. That will test you to see what level of quote unquote manual you're on. Now, third, financially donate to in order to support virginity and virgin marriage and virginity and celibacy until marriage. Look, everything has economic component to it. So if you're serious about that, and we urge you to be serious because this is how you protect your gene pool, financially donate to and regularly patronize programs, projects, organizations, and institutions that teach, that support, and that promote virginity, virgin marriage, and virginity, celibacy, and abstinence until marriage, and also lifelong marriage and stable family. Those are the types of institutions and things you should be directing money to that can actually help stabilize and avoid a lot of these things that we see prevalent: single parent homes, STD, high rates, all this other insanity. Direct your resources to support those that are actually promoting selective mating policies that work. Finally, the last one. Oh, before I do that, also to mention, we have a group. When I say we, the Society of Marriage and Family and the Marriage and Family Academy, we have a group that supports virgins. It's called Vacuum. Brother Noah mentioned it, Sultan mentioned it earlier. It's called Vacuum, Virginity, Abstinence, and Celibacy Until Marriage Support Group. So for those that are virgins and want to be around supportive, protective, like-minded people, you can access that group. We posted the link inside of the podcast chat group, but also on Brother Sultan's page, on his YouTube page, where this video is currently appearing and will appear after the broadcast is finished. The link to that group, Virginity, Abstinence, and Celibacy Until Marriage Support Group, the link is there. So if you're a virgin or you want to support, you can join, click on that link and join and fill out the registration to apply to become a member of that group, where you will get support, extended more support that you need with people that are like you. Fifth, if I may mention this, to those that want to support virgins and virgin marriage, stop financially supporting whores.
Can please, because I don't think they heard you. Can you?
To those that claim they are serious about creating lifelong marriages and stable families and want to support virgins and virgin marriage, stop financially supporting whores, prostitutes.
Wow.
Prostitutes, pimps, and degenerate males and females, and all of their activities. If you are saying you want to support virgins and virgin marriage, stop going to strip clubs. Stop sleeping.
Absolutely.
Stop sleeping with prostitutes. Stop sending your money to cam models. Stop sending money to OnlyFans models. Stop sending money to Instagram models. Stop sending money to whores and whoremongers on Tinder. So you're doing the opposite. It's no way you could claim you support something positive and then you putting your resources into what is the absolute opposite that's negative. So whores, prostitutes, pimps, and degenerate males, they are directly responsible for facilitating and continuing the dysfunctional random mating practices that have produced several generations of immoral males, females, and children, and the destruction of gene pools. So if you're serious about supporting virgin marriage, virginity until marriage, stop financially supporting all of those whores, prostitutes, pimps, and degenerate males and females. And that same money that you were wasting, you were wasting it and using it as a weapon of mass destruction against your gene pool. Take that same money and use it as a healing of mass healing, a strategy of mass healing, and support those organizations and initiatives that promote and support and build virgins and virgin marriage and lifelong marriage and stable families. It's not rocket science. Stop giving your resources to those that are destroying your gene pool and send those resources to those that are helping to protect and support the gene pools. Now, finally, I'll say this, and it is what it is. DEBOD, D-E-B-O-D, we use that term to emphasize there's a certain level that you just have to let people go and let certain negative characteristics and activities, you have to just get it away from you. It's no negotiation, no conversation. So if you're serious, and this is to everybody, if you're serious, this is also including virgins, myself, everybody. If you're serious about only going in the direction of producing a superior gene pool, superior family, superior marriage, superior community, you need to debo all whores, prostitutes, pimps, and degenerate males from your household, family, culture, society, even your philosophy, even your religion or your spirituality. What does debo mean? D-E-B-O-D. That's an acronym that I coined to reflect what traditional technology or culture, the approach that they would do with people that's destroying the gene pool. Debo simply means disown, exile, banish, outcasting, or death. So we're not advocating for death, but we sure enough advocating for all of the others. Disown, exile, banish, and outcast. You are actively aiding and abetting whores if you allow a whore to live in your house and your family. You are aiding and abetting prostitutes and pimps and degenerate males and females if you give them any support whatsoever. They are the enemy, is what I'm saying. They are the genetic enemy. So if somebody chooses, people like to say they got their choice, fine. If they choose to engage in activities that are destructive to the gene pool, why are you giving them any aid and support? Don't do that. Just tell them you got to do that on your own. You got to leave. You want to get pregnant outside of marriage, you got to leave. You want to catch 8 STDs a week, you got to go. You want to prostitute, you want to be on cam models, y'all get the point. We need to realize that you need to take a stance. It's not simply enough to just say, you know what, I won't do it. No, I'm not associating with drug dealers. Why would I help them? Why? For what? I'm not associating with murderers and whatever else. Why would I help them? So we need to also look at this conversation in the same regard concerning how to support virginity. One of the ways is not supporting things that's against virginity and virgin marriage at all. So finally, I'd say this, brother. No, we have a organization, several organizations, a society, a marriage society, Society of Marriage and Family, and Marriage and Family Academy that has a range of programs, educational courses, and just a supportive environment that builds and promotes what we're talking about. So anyone that's interested, as Brother Noah mentioned a while back, on the podcast YouTube page where this podcast appears, and also in the chat box, we posted those links. We have a whole bunch of courses that teach people about what virginity is, teach people about how to find a virgin. If you want to marry a virgin, that should be your goal. Stop going after a used toothbrush. Stop it. So we have courses that teach people, if you want the purest, go for shoot high. We have courses that give people practical strategies, and these courses are taught by people that are practicing this. Okay, we have a course that teaches about virginity, how to establish that in your household, in your life, how to go about seeking a virgin spouse. Where do you go? What kind of environments are virgins? What kind of organization? That course is all on that. And look, I got to say this because I'm sorry for going on, but I must mention this. One of the most insane things that the random maters like to say to people that intend to wait until marriage is, oh, you're not going to know how to please your spouse.
Oh my God.
As if to say, you need to go, you get yourself used up first before you get married to learn.
Yeah.
Well,
yep. That's what they say.
We know that's a fallacy, but I say that to bring this up. In the marriage academy that we have a course that teaches virgins and anyone in general. The course is called Marriage Sex Education Program. Teaches all of as much as is possible, obviously, of how to have sex with your spouse. Because it's no different. We look at sex, we talk about what sex actually is, not what people think it is. We look at sex as an educational and a technological and any other high-level activity. It's not a recreational activity. So people have to be taught about that. That's one of the reasons why people engage in random mating. They never got any quality sex education from their family to begin with. So that course is available for anybody that is a virgin or anybody that is waiting until marriage. And that way, oftentimes you will hear sometimes virgin, they don't get education about proper education about marital sex, and when they get married, they're stuck. So that course helps to bridge that gap. But nonetheless, I just mentioned all of those things. All of the links to the Virginity support group, all of the links to the Virgin and marriage educational courses are on the YouTube page that this podcast would appear on. And if anyone wants to get in touch with us, they can email us at TinetCulture, TINET culture, CULTURE @gmail.com, or SOMAF, SOMAFNGO @gmail.com. Also, you can get a hold of us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is SOMAF, SOMAF space SOMAF. That's our Facebook page. And also we have a YouTube channel, SOMAF. We have an actual YouTube channel, which is SOMAF. You can get a hold of us on our YouTube channel, SOMAF. Search that and you will find us on YouTube. But I yield.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. Again, I want to thank all the guests, the panelists, for their contributions. That's Layla, that's Bashira, that's Director Z, aka Wild Wolf. I want to thank everybody, the listening audience that listened, that shared the video, that will share the video and share the information. I understand that some of the things stated will touch some of those of us who've listened, and some of us will probably feel a certain way because it touches us personal. But the way to properly handle that energy is, instead of getting defensive and dismissive, embrace it and then seek to move forward the right direction from that point on. In other words, kings and queens and empresses, y'all know who I'm talking to. You know, don't take it personal. It's not a personal attack. Just move forward with the right information from then on. And that is the way that we improve. And that being said,
indeed, if I may say something, Brother Noah.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to correct something. I said SOMAF for the YouTube channel. Apologies. The Society of Marriage and Family. That is our YouTube channel. The Society of Marriage and Family. That is their YouTube channel. Apologies.
Yes, sir. No problem. Not a problem. All right. We are going to close. We went 30 minutes over, but that's okay because this information is going to benefit everybody that hears it and put into practice. Again, we've offered and we're offering solutions and platforms. We're not just talking about it, but we've also offered and are offering solutions. The links to all the support groups and the courses are inside the description of this video. Thank you all for listening and participating, and I wish you you're welcome. And I will you all a great evening. And until next time, everybody, peace.
Peace.